Hello, friends and fans of the podcast. Welcome to another Friday. It's another wonderful day in our special spot in the Milky Way. Well, who would have thought that this deep into 2021, we would still be dealing with COVID the way we are? It's called COVID-19 because, according to scientists, it started in 2019. We're approaching 2022. But here we are. And don't worry, I'm not going to blame anyone and I'm not going to shame anyone. I'm not that guy. That's the thing that drives me nuts about humans. And especially like it depends on where you are in the world, but in some parts of the world, everything becomes political. And when I say some parts of the world and then I say everything becomes political, I think most people know what parts of the world I'm talking about. Everything becomes politicized, right? And you can't say something, do something, or think something without someone trying to find out what political position you take and then criticizing you for it. And I'm talking from both sides. Whether you wear a mask or don't wear a mask, whether you judge someone who is or isn't wearing, it's out of control. I really believe that this pandemic has brought out the ugly in a lot of people. It's really bad. But here we are. Here we are, 2021 coming to a close, just a little bit left, and wow. Wow times 10. But you know what? Let me talk about something fun because I think COVID's going to be hanging around for a long time. Even after the bulk of the pandemic is over, it seems as though I'm going to be talking about my retirement at some point, in my mid 60s, and then also still having conversations with people about COVID. But let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about binge watching. That's something that I think COVID has really made everyone do. Binge watch. They should call it binge watch 19 because I swear that's what everyone did the minute we all got stuck in our homes. We all just said, okay, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Apple TV. I'm just going to binge watch. And that's what I'm doing. Binge watching. My wife and I have finally reached the point of binge watching where all the normal shows that we usually binge watch are now in between seasons. So it's like, well, what the heck are we going to watch now? We were watching some really good shows. We've exhausted everything. Now, there are some default shows we can just fall to, for instance, Criminal Minds, right? What's it have? 87 seasons? Now, I don't like watching shows that have a lot of seasons. I think Criminal Minds has 12. And something about shows with too many seasons that I don't like is that if a show has 6 or 7 seasons and then the production studio says we're done, the writers, the producers, they say we're done. After 6 seasons, 5 seasons, 7 seasons, then you're getting a perfect story. If a show goes on for 12 seasons, what you're getting is just a bunch of accidents that keep happening and a bunch of reinventing, but there's nothing that comes to completion. And I've noticed that with Criminal Minds. It just continues to reinvent itself, but it's kind of like, I don't want to say cookie cutter because it is an entertaining show, but it has this format where the show starts off with a crime and then you begin to watch the FBI or the BAU get into it and they begin to break down the traits of what makes and what does not make a serial killer and is this a serial killer and then they arrive at a conclusion and every episode is like that. And it's so interesting. Every episode is actually, although it's the same thing, it works. It's just very interesting watching the level of investigation they do and how they bounce ideas off of each other. But I'll tell you right now, Dr. Reed, yes, Dr. Actually, There are times I want to pick up an anvil and throw it at the television. I don't know what it is, but like people will be talking and he'll be like, well, actually, that was Abe Lincoln that said that. It was his second year in office when he once said, birds only chirp facing the sun. And it's funny because, like, watching Dr. Reed reminds me of a bunch of people that I have had the privilege, I guess, of knowing over the years who consider themselves to be really intelligent. And they pride themselves on knowing stuff and they don't hide it. And as we have a conversation, they're just waiting to let you know that you're wrong, or they're just waiting to come in and say, actually, no, that was George Washington who said that, you stupid idiot. Like, like they're just waiting to correct people, or they're just waiting to somehow show how intelligent they are. I think over the years, that type of personality has bothered me, but it's bothered me for a lot of reasons. I think one of the reasons why it's bothered me is because I was like that, and I still feel as though I still kind of am fighting against that type of tendency because I do enjoy doing research. But you can research something for 10 hours straight and still not know everything about it. There's always something that you will still need to learn about whatever topic it is you're researching. So I have fought over the decades to not be like that, but I have also been haunted by people in my life who are like that. And I've realized they're just no fun to be around. So I've kind of have this fear of becoming that. And so I'm always fighting against not being that way. But Detective Reed, or Dr. Reed in the show Criminal Minds, really is just, I think that if I went to have a beer with that character, the bottle would end up like being broken in pieces over his head at some point during the night. But I guess that's just my violent side speaking. But like I said, I like how they arrive at their conclusions in the show. It's cool to watch how they lead up to finding the main suspect. And and I don't know why, I also for some reason love the quotes from the doctors and philosophers that you hear at the beginning or at the end of every episode. An episode will end, and then Joe Mantegna's character or someone else's character will quote a saying from old, from years ago, and it's always an interesting saying, and it always gets me thinking. So I just thought, I don't know why I like that aspect of the show, but I also learned something about myself. That show, mostly at the beginning of the episode, but oftentimes at certain moments during the episode, as it unravels, they show the killer killing people and at times torturing people. And it's like, whoa, man, I just don't like seeing people get hurt. And I learned that about myself. The older I get, the less I like to see people suffer, even when I know it's fake. But right now, my wife and I, when it comes to binge watching, we really are binge watching the show Arrow. Yeah. And I don't, and I know I talked about it in a past episode. This show is essentially becoming a caricature of itself. Now, normally when you hear someone say that, it's a bad thing. Normally when someone says, Steve has become a caricature of himself, it's almost like saying that person is just really exemplifying the negative, aspect of their personality, or they're really living up to the negative aspect of their personality, or the undesirable aspects of their personality that people have come to know. That's usually when you say, so they become a caricature of themselves, But when I say that about the Arrow, it's not in a negative connotation. The show is just getting weirder and weirder with every season, and with every season it becomes less credible, more exaggerated, but it is still extremely entertaining. It just is. First of all, no one dies. Have you seen the show Arrow? We're in season 4 right now. No one dies. Oliver Queen, who's the Arrow, gets a sword shoved through his chest. It comes out his back. And then he falls off a cliff like 9 million feet. And I'm not exaggerating. Well, I am exaggerating, but it's like hundreds of feet off of an icy cliff to the rocks below. Lands on a rock hundreds of feet after being stabbed in the chest with a sword and it coming out the back, like 2 feet out the back. He lives. But who cares, man? It's the arrow. People don't die. You can literally have someone like swallow a grenade, get blown up into a million pieces, and then like next episode, they're there. They're not dead. They're talking to someone. And it's like, what the heck? You were just dead. Who cares? It's the arrow. People don't die. And they do die. That's the whole thing. In fact, him killing people was an issue for like 3 seasons. I'm not a killer. We can do this without killing people. And then he shoves an arrow in someone's face. But that's the show. It's just, the writing is weird. There was one part where someone said something. They said, I forget what it was, but they said someone broke in and they stole something from this person. And I forget who it was, but then someone else said, well, what did they steal? Did they steal his art collection? And the arrow goes, no, something much more dangerous. And I'm thinking, much more dangerous than an art collection? Like, there are certain things that don't get addressed that in real life would kind of stand out as funny or just weird or quirky. But in the show, they just make it so serious. I honestly believe that Stephen Amell, he's the actor who portrays the Arrow in this show. I can see Stephen Amell doing like a comedy movie, an action comedy. In fact, producers, whoever is out there, making these movies, if there's a good action movie that needs a lot of comedy, I think that Stephen Amell will be perfect for this. And one of the reasons why, if you look at this show, right? And so when Oliver Queen, when he was like stranded on the island, there's a lot of flashbacks in this show. And the flashbacks are, I don't know what it is. They're a riot. Oliver Queen is essentially a goofball with an ugly wig in the flashbacks. He's just this big goof. You can tell he's wearing this wig. It barely even fits him. It makes his head look like a gigantic bowling ball. But it's still a very entertaining show. It never stops being entertaining. Laurel Lance, played by Katie Cassidy, is the Black Canary. Her superpower? Screaming. Standing, getting in some weird pose, and screaming with this device attached to her throat and windows break. Yeah, that's what she does. People sometimes go flying when she screams. Don't understand it, but that's her superpower. And the good thing, too, about her is at the beginning of every season, her face looks different. So you get to spend like 3 episodes trying to figure out what type of cosmetic surgery she had in the off season. But I must be honest, she's doing it right. And I read a few articles, and it's Hollywood, so half the stuff you read is true, and the other half the stuff you read is not true, I guess. Right? If half the stuff you read is true, then that would mean the other half is not true. But I went on this reading rampage about Katie Cassidy, the actress who plays the Black Canary. She, according to what I read, and you can tell by looking at her face because it metamorphoses into something different every season, she does get cosmetic surgery, or at least she has the strong appearance that she does. But I will say right now, she's doing it right. She's doing it right. Dude, I've seen some actors, men and women, and don't think that men don't get cosmetic surgery. They do, and then it's like, holy crap, you're 52 years old. What did you do to yourself? And I've seen some actors, they hit their early 50s and they like go nuts, and it's like, whoa, calm it down. You don't even look human anymore. But I've seen men and women go nuts with the knife, and they end up looking like the Joker. But Katie has it down. I don't know what she's doing. She must have done a lot of research ahead of time. to find out like some less invasive kinds of surgery that you can do. Um, but yeah, more power to her. Something else that I also find interesting about this show, and I have to mention it. I have to mention it. What in the heck is it with every villain knowing how to just whack an arrow out of the air as it comes at their face, or catching arrows? And some of these villains, they don't have superpowers. They were like a cop, right? And then they turned bad. And then the arrow comes and fires an arrow at their face, and they just swat it out of their face like a mosquito. I can promise you something. If you stand 10 feet away from me and pull back an arrow and shoot it at my chest, I'm going to look like a kebab in no time. But no, here in the Arrow, every bad guy knows how to just catch arrows midair and then break them with one hand. I'm like, what world are we living in here? Well, Starling City. I don't get it. There's not a lot to fully understand intellectually about this show, but it is still horribly entertaining. And there's a couple of characters I got to say that stand out for me. First of all, Detective Lance, or Captain Lance, right? Laurel Lance's dad in the movie. I love his character. Absolutely love his acting. I love the things he says, the writing, the way he interprets the character. Malcolm or Merlin. Yeah, Merlin. Malcolm Merlin. His character is perfect. I just love it. It's goofy at times, but the acting is good. There's depth to it, and there's also Nissa, and she's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul in the League of Assassins. I absolutely love her character, and I can see her in a lot of movies. I can see her in a ton. She looks like she was taken right out of like Lord of the Rings or something. I just really like her character. But enough about the Arrow, okay? He's not going anywhere. We're in season 4, and we have all of this season and 4 more to go. But we need to be sharp and see Justin Johnson. Justin Johnson. Now, there's not a whole lot about him, and it's interesting because sometimes, and I've gone back and I've listened to some of my older episodes, and I'll pick an artist, and sometimes I'll talk about like this one artist for like a half hour, like just bam, like I'll just dive right into somebody. Here's the thing about Justin Johnson: there's not a whole lot about him out there on the internet that I could find about him personally, which doesn't bother me that much, because I actually, when it comes to music, my goal is to focus on the music as best as I can with this podcast. I don't want to sit there, and I've mentioned musicians in the past, and this is my 51st episode, and I've mentioned musicians in the past where they had a drug problem. They maybe had an eating disorder, or they had this problem, or they had that problem. I don't like to really get into a lot of that stuff, because eating disorders, drug problems, these are things that afflict mankind. These are things that afflict all of us. So if a musician has a 2-year period where they had to take a hiatus because they had to deal with a heroin addiction, I can only imagine that if they're being interviewed, they don't want to talk about that. I can't see. Okay, like let's just say there's an actor out there, and he has a 3 decades long acting career, but he took off like 5 years, or he had a real big problem for like 5 years where he was using heavy drugs. He got divorced. Maybe there was some violence in his life, and years go by, and now he's like on the mend, and maybe he's completely sober. I don't know. I can't imagine after releasing a movie and having maybe 2 decades in between the movie that they just released and their drug problem. I can't imagine they want to sit there and talk about how they got divorced, how they got arrested for indecent behavior, and this, that, and the other. I can't imagine that that's something that someone would want to talk about. And that's kind of what I'd like to try to do when I go into these podcasts. I don't really want to get too personal when it comes to anybody. So when it comes to Justin Johnson, this is what I know about the guy. From what I understand, he was born in California. He now lives in Tennessee. That's it. Oh, and, hold on. And his name is Justin Johnson. Now, what I like about this dude is that he, first of all, has an amazing YouTube presence. And when I say he's got an amazing YouTube presence, yeah, I make YouTube videos. I mean, I shouldn't really say I make YouTube videos. That's almost, an exaggeration of the facts. But I've made a YouTube video. My songs are on YouTube. I make, like lyric videos for my songs and stuff. I know that to get a YouTube video to look like you're watching a production, okay, is not easy. For as much as I don't really, I used to enjoy, there's a guitar player out there, his name is Stephen Terryberry. Good guitar player. I used to watch him and I like religiously, like when he came out with a new episode, because I think he comes out with a new episode like weekly. I would like watch his episode. But then I began to lose a little bit of interest because I felt like I would have to watch minutes of each episode to actually benefit from the information that he was presenting. I felt the information a little bit too like lowbrow, I guess. Like it was just too, I don't want to say lowbrow. It's just that like I didn't, it wasn't, I couldn't, it wasn't constructive for me. And I like goofiness. I love goofiness. Trust me, you should see some of the stupid crap I post on YouTube. But it was musical, and I wanted it to focus more on music. I wish it was one or the other. But he's got a huge following now. I think he's approaching 3 million subscribers, and his videos are very well produced. And the content is interesting. I just have like ADD. Like after 2 minutes of listening to him burp and kick bottles around his room, I kind of want to just get back to the information. But that's just me. Apparently, millions of other people don't have the same issue, and they love his channel. They love what he does. But you see, watching his video, you can tell. And the same thing with, I forget his name, but Music is Win, same thing. The videos are very well produced. And when you get a Justin Johnson video, here's the thing with Justin Johnson. And I don't know if he did this on purpose, but I love what he does. He's mysterious. Just bam, boom. All of a sudden, this old piano from like the 1920s with the top off, right? Or like the cover off so you can see the insides. He's sitting there. He's got this cool looking presence. You can tell that the cameras are being controlled by someone with talent. You can tell that there was thought into how they could, what's the backdrop going to be? How are we going to do this? Okay, are you ready? Let's get the sound ready. You can tell that there was work and forethought into these videos. And then what do you have? Well, you have one of the most unique guitar players I've ever seen. And my reason for saying this is because he is essentially only featuring guitar in this music, and it's electric for the most part. If it ain't got string and a neck, then it probably ain't in his music. He also plays a unique style of guitar that's just real eerie and haunting, but at the same time, very beautiful. And I promise his music will make your mind and soul travel, and there's no doubt. Let me start off by saying just one word: slide. If you like slide guitar, even a little, then you are going to love what Justin Johnson does with his guitar. He plays an amazing slide guitar, but he incorporates like rhythm, bass, chords, lead. He incorporates a lot of that into his slide playing. So he uses the slide, but he also uses the pads of his fingers as well, and he very rarely uses a pick. So his style of play is kind of like both traditional but innovative at the same time. He's got amazing control over the strings. His choice of notes, his style of play, it will absolutely take you away. And all I can say, and this is almost like a cop out, like a cheap way of saying go check him out, but literally go to his YouTube channel and don't just choose one video. Don't just choose one video. He has a ton of things on his YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is extremely well presented. It really is. He's got instructional videos on there, and he's got some videos where he actually speaks. Honestly, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with this guy, and I've watched some of his videos where he speaks. He's got a great musical mind. And if you are a musician and you're interested in getting certain tones and stuff like that, videos where he's being interviewed or speaking about how to play certain types of guitars, how to do like standard D tuning and stuff like that, it's great. It's great. But what attracted me to his YouTube channel were like the 1 hour long videos of him just playing guitar. And this dude is prolific. There's always new content on his channel. There's a lot of content on his channel. And he often creates videos that are long. They could be an hour long, and you can just listen to him play. Listen to him play his music, and like the songs will change. And when every song changes, and I'm talking one video, an hour long, the song changes, and now like he's on his deck playing the guitar. He's got this cool lake in the background. You can hear birds in the background. And if you play guitar, don't just watch his fretting hand, watch his strumming hand as well. He's got amazing control over what he does. And there's a lot going on. And see, you've got to be careful because he makes it look easy. And he does weird stuff, like plays a cigar box guitar, an oil can guitar, a guitar made out of a shovel that only has like 3 strings on it and stuff like that. And now those aren't my favorite. I actually like the traditional guitar. I like it when he grabs like a National steel or a lap steel. He has got like a Fender lap steel that he plays that's really great. He plays great, acoustic, and he plays the mandolin as well. So sometimes it's like 3 different tracks. He's got the mandolin, acoustic, and the slide going on, and you can tell that the production is nice because maybe one instrument just pans to the left, like the acoustic guitar, like the strumming is in the left ear, and then you can hear the mandolin in the right ear, maybe. That type of production is just nice, and he'll do all the instruments, and it's really, really, really nice. And of course, there's different types of tunings that he uses on the guitar. When you have a slide player, a lot of times they want to use open tunings and things like that. So you'll get different types of, maybe non-traditional tunings on the guitar. That's really nice. But the other day I was thinking to myself, when I was thinking about doing this episode about Justin Johnson, I thought to myself, what actually is the appeal with this guy? Well, in like 99% of his music, or I should say in 99% of his videos, he's just playing music. There's always some kind of cool background. It could be him in the studio, could be him in front of a cool looking piano, could be him on his deck with that awesome lake in the background. And I love how you see the microphones that he's using to make his videos, and sometimes you see the microphone that's right up against the amplifier. It just screams organic, and it is organic. It's great music done right, and the raw, organic aspect of this music is just seeping. It's dripping out of every video. And this is what we need. We need musicians like this to remind us that music is expression. And it can be that way. It can be that the music makes the expression and not the production. For some reason, and I know I'm beating this, like I'm hitting the same note over and over again, right? But for some reason, this world right now, especially the music world, has like this thinking that production comes first. Oh no, the production is what's going to make this song express. And yes, there is expression in production. There is art in production. But music is what comes first. Production is interesting. When you live in a production first world, you end up kind of leaving out the talent, fixing the mistake. Oh, let's just do it in post. It's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll fix that in post. But no. Here comes Justin Johnson, and he says, okay, production's good. It's important. And you can tell he understands production is important. But I would rather just play an amazing style of guitar, express myself deeply this way, and use the production to aid that, to give my music an audience, but to not be the music. The music is in my heart, it's in my head, but it's in my hands. And that is what just comes out when you watch Justin Johnson play the guitar. It's amazing. And I think that's coming back. I really do, folks. I think that that's coming back. I can't even tell you how many times I've heard people, young people, I'm talking 17, 18, in their 20s, they say that they wish more people played a great guitar, or they'll say that they wish more people focused less on insane producing and in creating better songs. Yes, songs. So there's almost like this gigantic loop that I believe we're in the middle of right now, where you had, for a really long period of time, musicians who mastered their instruments, right? You had that. You had in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? 90s, especially in the earlier decades, before there were a lot of tools for producing the music, when all you had was, tape, microphones, and stuff like that, and you had to kind of like maybe multi-track recorders, things like that. You had to kind of go back and do stuff over again, but you had people who played their instruments. We spent decades of doing that. The 80s and 90s, it was weird because production became something different. You could really do a lot digitally, electronically. And the 80s and 90s really brought that out. And I believe in the 2000s and the 2010s, that surge, like when you're pouring Coke into a bottle, or I should say you're pouring Coke into a glass, you get halfway there, but the foam fizzes up and you have to stop for a second and then just wait for the foam to fizz down. I feel like the 2000s and the 2010s is when the foam was rising to the top of the glass. It's when production was rising to its apex. Now here we are in 2021, and there's only so much you can do with production. There's only so much you can do with production. You need good songs. You need good music. You need people who know how to express their feelings, how to express pain, how to express loss, how to express love. You need people who know how to do that with their fingers only. And I believe that's coming back. And I mean, look, and there's hope yet. I've looked at like Justin Johnson's YouTube videos. Some of these videos have a lot of them have millions of views. And I know normally I say, hey, go check out this song title and go check out that song title. I'll give you a song title. I have it written down. Let me find it, because it's not in my brain. It's something about, Son of a Witch. Okay, I was going to say it's something about a witch. Son of a Witch. That's like the only song title that I can remember, because I literally just put him on and just listened to him for like hours. And I don't always go listening for like, what's the title of this song, But there is a song that I really like. It's called Son of a Witch. It's a good song. Yeah. But I say, don't just go listen to that song. You have to go and listen to his channel. Go through his channel, listen to what he does, watch his videos. It's just really something. And I know it's funny too, because I have like this, I'm on this kick with like dark country, listening to like Blue Saraceno and the Heavy Horses. And it's like, oh my God. Can you imagine if like Justin Johnson teamed up with, the Heavy Horses or Blue Saraceno, and they cut an album together? My mind just goes nuts. But that's the producer in me coming out. So that's it. That's all I really have to say. Go check out his YouTube channel. I have been working on my own stuff lately, too. I have. In fact, I've been very busy. And I'll do an episode about one of my songs. I recently released a song called In Your Pride, and I'll go ahead and I'll do an episode about that song at some point, and I'll put it here on the podcast so you can hear it. But if you want to hear In Your Pride, you can go to the Artie Astor YouTube channel and hear it there. There's more songs, too, that I'm working on. I feel good about a lot of the songs I'm working on. But go listen to Justin Johnson. Let me know how you liked it. Email and text only. I am social media free. You can text me at 781-728-5974, or you can email me at keepitgroovybaby@gmail.com. That's it. This episode is over. That's all, friends. This is your host, Artie Astor, saying keep it groovy.